Okay, just one more time.
Some of the boys in the back.
WWE.
Oh, hell
Yeah! Okay, but seriously though. A couple of months ago, I released a video called WWE and Nostalgia Bias, in which I discussed how despite WWE still being an evil, big cunt of a company, they've since come good creatively after decades of letting their audiences down, and that seems to be what people want to focus on more than anything else. I include myself in this group, because as much as I try to stay aware and be vocal about the issues within the company, using the fiction as an escape from my own everyday stresses is so much easier than constantly rallying against them, which is how you get like AEW is right now. Constant, kind of justified rah-rah speeches which fall on deaf ears. Nevertheless, I do feel this discussion about WWE Nostalgia Bias is still relevant, especially since my first video was released, only more evidence has come forth about the real vindictiveness of WWE as a company. We've had more talent releases, the WWE ID program seeking to further monopolize the industry, and yet another lawsuit against Vince McMahon and WWE as the pair's skeletons continue to be pulled out of the closet. The most pressing example, though, may be the latest WWE Saudi Arabia pay-per-view Crown Jewel, and the sheer lack of discussion around the fact that, this is a blood money show that shouldn't exist. Unfortunately, sports washing has worked once again, and what used to be a massive source of controversy is now just another night in wrestling, because along with so much of WWE's other skeletons, the extra low, extra terrible bar that pro wrestling functions at, and the inability for us as a general public to stomach discussing troubling issue after troubling issue at a time where we are faced with more and more information than ever before has allowed us to turn a blind eye again and again and again and again and again. But how did we get here? How did WWE get to a point where so much of the negative voices that once surrounded the company have all but disappeared, at least at a large scale level, and especially considering how only a few years ago things were very, very different? Well, to find that out, we gotta go back a couple years. When Excalibur uttered the words, AEW is the home of professional wrestling at the conclusion of All Out 2021, it really scanned as a changing of the guard in pro wrestling. AEW was the hot, progressive, and up-and-coming company which had taken the wrestling world by storm since its inception 2 years earlier, and through a string of fantastic creative, fan service, and wish fulfillment, AEW had built up a significant amount of goodwill as an organization, and a reputation as wrestling's underdog babyface company going up against the big bad WWE, who tried and failed to counter-program and kill their rise by way of NXT, which failed spectacularly. It was this goodwill, specifically in the locker room's handling of Brody Lee's death, which convinced CM Punk to finally come back to wrestling. And the arrivals of Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole All Out were themselves massive indicators that the grass may have been greener in Jacksonville rather than Connecticut. Meanwhile, WWE were creatively in the toilet as they had been for a long time, but the pandemic really was a new low for them. That, mixed with the insulting lack of respect for its audience which had driven AEW's birth in the first place, as well as the negativity surrounding WWE's relationship with Saudi Arabia and a lot of their practices throughout COVID-19, such as the mass firings on Black Wednesday, not to mention the death of Triple H's NXT, the unwelcome arrival of NXT 2.0, and the effects of speaking out on the similarly disastrous NXT UK, both of which were seen as the end of WWE's transparent attempts to once again monopolize the industry amidst the threat of AEWs Uprising. WWE were at an all-time low perception-wise among fans, and trends were beginning to indicate that AEW moving from challenger brand to number one brand may not have been too ridiculous an idea. It was something openly talked up by Chris Jericho and of course Tony Khan, and victories for AEW over both Raw and SmackDown in the key 18 to 49 demographics, as well as the gap in between them in ratings shrinking, only added to the notion that WWE's lead over AEW and their dominance over the wrestling industry may have been on borrowed time. Was this perception to last as we entered 2022? Well, simply, no. But not for the reasons you might think. You may think that WWE's resurgence, competitive dominance, and improved public perception really kicked in once Vince McMahon was ousted, but the truth is these developments began much sooner. AEW's momentum had stalled as soon as the autumn of 2021, and ratings trends soon returned to WWE's favor. A cynical yet smart move to make Saudi Arabia shows canon to WWE programming rather than the awkward nostalgia excursion twice a year served a great purpose in normalizing the shows in the face of a concerned audience, and finally, in a massive coup, WWE picked up Cody Rhodes from AEW at the beginning of the year, a moment perfectly marketed by WWE as a superstar returning to the big leagues rather than, whatever he was doing before. Doesn't matter. Maybe the grass was as green in WWE as the record money they were pulling in. The same money Cody Rhodes would go on to earn them more and more of as the soon-to-be face of the company in the years to come. And if these developments in early 2022 weren't enough to cure WWE's public rep, a double whammy of stories in the summer would be the deciding factor. On the surface, Vince McMahon's ousting from power in WWE and the reveal of an evil, diabolical culture at the center of the company should have been the death knell for WWE. that had long been coasting, driving away their audiences in droves and unveiling WWE as an unimaginable corporate evil, but actually, it was the best possible thing for them. In shockingly swift motion, Vince McMahon was out of the creative hot seat after a plethora of hush money agreements with several women both in and out of WWE were revealed, accusing the WWE chairman of mass amounts of sexual assault and other depraved acts. So just like that, despite Vince's initial defiance in the face of the allegations, Triple H was in, and WWE ushered in a new creative era, attempting to push themselves as far away from the public image of Vince as humanly possible, and redefining WWE as a product that gives the people what they want again, so to ensure they don't focus on all that murky other stuff over here. Despite the fact that, according to Ronda Rousey at least, Vince was still pulling a lot of the strings during this time anyways. And if it couldn't get any better for WWE, AEW at this time found themselves simultaneously self-destructing. Tony Khan's negligence had failed to stoke the fires of dissent in the AEW locker room, and murmurs of backstage issues between CM Punk and the Elite were thrust into the limelight during Punk's infamous rant on the All Out 2022 post-show scrum, with the subsequent reporting on the issues revealing a backstage fight between Punk and the Young Bucks, which would become known as Brawl Out, the single most important and destructive event in the history of AEW, which, in hindsight, took place at exactly the wrong time as WWE were on the verge of getting hot again. Once the company known for fulfilling your long-lost wrestling dreams which WWE had failed to, AEW had slowly lost momentum by failing to deliver the kinds of instant dream matches promised by a string of unbelievable signings in 2021, and were now certainly unable to deliver them because arguably their two most important acts were now at odds at each other in real life, inciting a culture war that still exists to this day, overshadowing everything and anything AEW's tried to do since, and all but shattering the goodwill and trust fans had in the company, a problem which would only be exacerbated in the years to come by a string of horrific decisions, an increasing defensiveness, and a slow but sure creative decline. By the end of 2022, and I'm not sure anybody could quite believe it, but WWE had turned the ship around and they showed no signs of slowing down. Well, that was until... Fuck. Vince is back. As ridiculous as it is to paint Vince McMahon as this boogeyman who upon his departure rid WWE of any and all deeply rooted ills, it's a sentiment a lot of people actually believed, and so when Vince literally blackmailed his own way back into the company in January 2023, worries began to creep in that WWE's new burgeoning creative prowess, which is all that people really seemed to care about, was going to disappear now that the boogeyman had resurfaced. And WrestleMania 39 was an indicator that those worries may have been well-founded. Cody Rhodes lost to Roman Reigns in the main event, while having since been retroactively received as a great decision, considering the events of WrestleMania 40, was extremely divisive at the time and certainly quelled the positive mood around WWE that had swelled around Mania 39 season. And a very Vince-feeling post-Mania Raw only served to make those nervous about Vince's return through the back door even more nervous. And this wasn't even to mention the far more pressing concerns of, well, a multiple times over accused sexual abuser now back in an environment filled with women working for him, let alone the notion that he was even back in the first place. But that's nothing a ridiculous mustache and a company sale won't fix, and it turns out that the creative slump was only temporary. WWE did great for the end of 2023, and for the most part more than kept the momentum that had rebuilt the goodwill among audiences old and new since the year prior. Add on to that AEW's continued shortcomings and the arrivals of further AEW talent into the WWE fold towards the end of the year, specifically with the return of CM Punk and Survivor Series, and WWE were in a better place in the end of 2023 than they were at the end of 2022, and I'm sure there's absolutely nothing that could get in the way. Well, actually, it turns out Janelle Grant wants to have a word. In January 2024, mere days before the Royal Rumble, a shocking new lawsuit emerged from former WWE employee Janelle Grant, accusing Vince McMahon of assaulting and sex trafficking her during her time at WWE, with the allegations also including head of talent relations John Laurinaitis and major star Brock Lesnar, as well as accusing WWE as a whole of deep-rooted rot and negligence towards the issue. 18 months after his initial retirement and 12 months after his return, Vince was gone all over again, and not as an admittance of guilt from WWE, mind you, rather just because Slim Jim were going to pull their sponsorship from the Royal Rumble if Vince didn't up and boast, naturally. Did these shocking new details make people reevaluate their relationships to this fictional world, considering the frightening real-life details behind the scenes? Did it make Triple H seem any less of a savior when he openly said he didn't read the lawsuit during the Royal Rumble post-show, and later said he'd love to have Brock Lesnar back in the company? Nope. Nothing. In 2024, WWE was hotter than ever. WWE doubled down on the new era nonsense big time at WrestleMania 40, with Triple H and Stephanie McMahon's appearances coinciding with the crowning of Cody Rhodes as undisputed WWE champion, just 1 year after his loss to Roman Reigns threatened to unravel the entire dynasty when Vince sauntered his way back into the company. Inexplicably, WWE's continued creative peak has completely overshadowed a whole host of practices WWE were routinely dunked on for participating in while under Vince, The fact it's Papa H cooking now, it's all different, right? Such as the continued deal with Saudi Arabia, the fact some of WWE's biggest stars like John Cena, The Undertaker, and The Rock, as well as major backstage presences like Bruce Pritchard are all still major Vince supporters, the WWE ID program and expanded international ventures continuing their attempts to monopolize the entire industry all over again, and just to mention once more, the Janelle Grant lawsuit involving not only Vince, but WWE itself. But yeah, Cody's got the belt now, so it's all good. And I love Cody Rhodes, but come on man, there's more important things here. And I understand both from a fan and a wrestler or employee perspective that, one, we all have our vices and our escapes, and a lot of the time it feels like there's not a whole lot we can do to actually affect these things, and the fiction and distractions we have from our own lives have value to us. It's not as easy as just switching off the TV and erasing your investment and emotional connection to a hobby you may have fostered since you were a child. And two, wrestlers and employees within not only WWE but anywhere else in the notoriously shady wrestling business are, in a lot of ways, just doing their jobs. It's not their fault that Vince or people within WWE are absolute monsters. Most of these people seem like good guys and gals, and I want to be able to watch their hard work pay off, and I want to watch them succeed. As I said earlier, there's bigger things here than fiction. There's bigger fish to fry, and at the very least, it's got to be talked about more. So, where do we go from here? Unfortunately, it seems like we're in for more of the same. AEW has finally lost the Wednesday Night Wars, WWE ID is kicked off hot and heavy, more and more international markets are being cornered, including the continued Saudi relationship, the new era continues, and we continue watching our favorite wrestling pastime with a looming reality behind us, like that Undertaker AJ Styles meme. The more we know about the inner workings of this company and how they may be implicated in a whole host of horrific misdeeds, the less and less we can turn a blind eye for the sake of getting our fix every Monday and Friday night. Or Tuesdays for you freaks who watch NXT. How much longer can they get away with this is the real question. Perhaps we'll get a bit of a tell when the booking gets worse. The base becomes less and less satisfied with the creative offerings. Is that when their frustration will manifest into other areas of the company, much like it did under the Vince regime in its final years? I don't know for sure. It's an extremely difficult and prickly situation to unwrap. But it's fascinating to note step by step how frankly easy it was for WWE to turn the ship around from where they were in 2020 and 2021 to where they are in 2024. Nigh upon untouchable, as it seems all the people who hated WWE may have never really wanted change, but rather just wanted to watch what they grew up on be good again all along. And fuck, if that just isn't a sad state of affairs. Anyways, how about that Bloodline reunion now? Thanks for watching. Please engage in these important conversations surrounding WWE by letting me know your thoughts in the comments below, and also check out the Culture of Controversy podcast hosted by Sean Gallagher. I was a guest for the Vince McMahon episode this week, and we had a fantastic near 2-hour chat about all things Vince McMahon. I highly recommend checking that out if you like this video. Also, please like, share, and subscribe for more. Follow me on socials here, of course, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.